Esports, or electronic sports, are a form of competition using video games. Usually, it involves a multiplayer game designed for competition in either player versus player or team versus team environments. Many of the current most popular games all fall into the category of competitive gaming. These include games such as Counter-Strike, StarCraft, Super Smash Bros., Overwatch, Rocket League, and Dota. Despite being looked down upon and mocked decades ago, esports have since developed and seen a surge in popularity. In 2019, the League of Legends World Championship Finals had almost 100 million unique viewers tune in and peaked at almost 4 million concurrent viewers. For comparison, the Super Bowl in 2018 had just over 98 million unique viewers tune in. So how did we get to this point? Why do so many people tune in to watch esports? All that and more on today's episode of The Rundown.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of The Rundown.
I'm Sam.
I'm Will.
And let's get right into it.
Today's episode is on esports.
And where better to start than from the beginning?
Yeah. First esports event,
So,
Stanford University.
Yeah, Stanford University in 1972.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first unofficial for esports event, I guess, because it was just like a bunch of students that competed, and like it was like I think it was student organized maybe, and it was with the video game Space War,
Which I had never heard of before. Yeah.
Because makes sense because I think Space War was like I think it might have been like basically the first popular video game ever made.
Mm-hmm.
But it was made for like computers at the time, which were a new invention, and
Yeah,
like there were
only
like,
top
a few-
universities
yeah,
had
only like
them.
MIT and like Stanford and like some prestigious like colleges had a computer because it was just invented.
Mm-hmm.
So no one really could play Space War, and this like gaming event was basically just for Stanford because only they could play it.
Mm-hmm.
And the grand prize for the winner of that thing was a year-long subscription to the Rolling Stones magazine, which is
I mean,
it's better than nothing.
yeah.
But, you know,
I mean, prize pools have gotten
a
a lot bigger since then, for sure.
I would imagine that it's like just the thought you could win anything at all from playing
Mhm.
video games is probably pretty insane.
Mm-hmm. Pretty revolutionary.
Yeah.
And
But
the
then
next one was
8 years later,
Yeah.
the first official video game competition happened. And that was for Space Invaders.
I mean,
which-
everyone knows Space
that
Invaders.
one you probably
Yeah.
have heard of. And it was the Space Invaders Championship. And this had like, I think like attendance of like around 10,000 participants, which is
crazy.
pretty crazy for like
Yeah.
the first official video game event
Even nowadays, like 10,000 is a big number
Yeah.
for things like that.
for like in person, probably. And like it got a lot of like widespread media attention, obviously, because everyone knew Space Invaders. It was like a household name, and then all of a sudden it's like a official tournament for it. That's
Yeah.
yeah,
The idea that you could win something for playing some arcade game
yeah.
was pretty crazy. And I mean, back then, the only place where you could play games were in
Yeah,
arcades.
a bunch of
'cause-
these tournaments probably happened at like arcades, where
Mhm.
everyone just like took turns like going on the cabinets.
I mean, household consoles weren't really a thing yet.
Yeah.
So,
And the grand prize for this first official event was actually an arcade machine, I believe. So that's
that's pretty cool.
it's better. It's a
Yeah.
lot better than the Rolling
A
Stones
lot better
thing.
than the Rolling
Yeah.
Stones, yeah. I mean, nowadays, games are designed to be competitive.
Yeah, a lot more definitely.
Because, I mean, back then it was just like casual. You go to the arcade with your friends and
Yeah, back then it was kind of still designed for it, maybe, I guess, because a lot of games were like high score based. Things like, I don't know, like Pac-Man.
still had a
and, like,
scoring system.
Galaga and all that. So basically there was still a way to like compare how you did with each other. But nowadays, definitely games are a lot more like intended to be taken like super competitively.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the first games that did that was kind of like Smash Bros, which is kind of weird because Smash was designed to be the most casual,
Yeah.
sit on your couch with your friends and beat each other up. But
Yeah, so like Smash was like one of the first games to become like a really competitive game, I think. Or one of those first like really popular games to become that like competitive, because it was Smash Bros. Melee. It was released in 2001 by Nintendo,
yeah,
and like you said, like their vision for the game was just
super
for it to
casual.
be a casual party game, and that's all they wanted. The creator of like the game, Masahiro Sakurai, he said that like in an interview himself, like his vision was that, and he like didn't want to change that.
Yeah.
So, but then like players that are really like dedicated to the game start like pushing the limit more and more and start discovering like techniques and practicing it and mastering them.
Yeah.
Things like wave dashing, L canceling, chain grabbing, like, and a bunch of other techniques that like just weren't intended to be discovered. Like they weren't intended to be in the game, or they were deliberately put in the game. They weren't like expected to be pushed that far.
Yeah, and I mean, what was that thing? It was like they did some study and the average Smash Melee player was doing...
I think it was just like some player like recorded like a player playing, and it was like the average Smash player probably like the average competitive Smash player probably has like around 6 inputs per second, and this is from like a decade ago, so maybe honestly it's even more now.
That's crazy. And how that game is still being played so competitively to this day.
Yeah, like it's been like 20 years and it's still
more than 20 years.
Yeah,
still
more now.
Highly competitive.
And it's even more crazy because in the fact that like in the beginning the game was like on its own, like the fan base was on its own, the competitive side of the fan base. Like tournaments were just like independently hosted by like people like at their homes. Yeah. And it was just like people just
there was
show up.
No Nintendo sponsored events or anything.
It was actually like the opposite because eventually Melee started getting big because it was just like the continued dedication of fans, and it like was gonna get like a major tournament was gonna get like live streamed on Twitch, and Nintendo tried to like legally shut it down and just stop it from being broadcasted because
Which is so weird to me.
They just didn't want that the perception of their game to be like super like hard to get into and super like, you know, just like hard for an average casual player to enjoy.
Yeah, I think that's something that we'll probably touch on more later, but like having to balance the casual player with the competitive professional player, because
but at least I believe there was like a lot of backlash when they said that they were going to do that, and they ended up changing their minds and just letting it happen because they were getting like a lot of hate for it.
I mean, only until last year did they start sponsoring Melee events.
I think this year they for the first time ever had like an official Nintendo sponsored circuit for the game,
Melee.
For Melee, and for Ultimate, which is like the newest Smash game, when it came out they had like an invitational tournament. I think
and that came out like 4 years ago,
probably around that. Like it's been a while, but even then like the tournament was like a lot more casual than like an official fighting game tournament.
For sure.
But then so like on its way to glory, I guess Melee was able to like go from like small independent random people's houses to like MLG, which was like one of the biggest video game tournaments at the time, probably like a decade ago, and then Evo eventually, which is like the biggest fighting game tournament ever.
I think MLG was huge during the early days of gaming and esports, but they've since like pursued other things. But I remember it was like the same thing with Halo. Yeah. When the Xbox came out, the Xbox One, there was no Xbox Online or multiplayer or anything like that, but you could host LAN parties where people would come to your garage and all play Halo together, and it was like, I don't know, it was a casual but competitive environment. Yeah.
Sounds like a pretty good time.
Yeah. And I don't know, I think that it's weird that it took so long for Nintendo to finally start sponsoring these things.
It just took them like a long time to kind of accept this side of their community, even though it's like a really, really major part of the community, because it's okay. Well, I guess compared to the casual audience, it's probably a small percentage, but still, it's the most dedicated.
It's the most dedicated, yeah. That's what I think is important, because you have to see the professional players as your most dedicated players.
Yeah, because they are.
But they're such a small percentage.
And I think that's like a big part of why like balancing games is really hard.
I mean, modern games, like when I think of modern competitive games, I think League of Legends and Apex and Overwatch.
Yeah, CSGO, Valorant, like all those games,
And they're very much focused on making sure that the game is as competitive and fair for every person as possible. And they try to eliminate all random aspects of the game.
Basically, And on the other side of things, like the random parts are probably like what make the game really fun for some people, especially like
for the casual audience. Exactly.
Like in Smash for official tournaments, like things like stage hazards are always turned off, and like some stages are banned if they're like too many like random aspects, and like random items are banned, and like all that. So it becomes just straight up like skill versus skill.
Yeah, but those are all things that can make the game more fun for a casual player who doesn't take the game too seriously.
And then just like normal game changes that you have to make. You have to like decide. Well, I guess like developers have to decide like, should we make this change because like the top 1% of players are like dominating with it and like finding a lot of success with it. It's like it's not fair there, but like the other 99% can't use it at all.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times professional players and casual players may as well not be playing the same game.
Yeah, exactly. Like something that always gets talked about for League of Legends is how solo queue, which is like the normal competitive ranked ladder, is like a completely different game from professional play.
Yeah, because you can't play the same game when you have teammates that you've been playing for with years and have thousands of hours together, and you know exactly how they play.
Like in pro play, you can trust your players, and like there's like communication happening.
But in solo queue, you just
in solo queue is just 5 randoms.
Yeah,
basically.
It's random people, so that's definitely a lot different. And I know in Overwatch, at the lower tiers, like bronze and silver players, Bastion and Junkrat and characters that don't take a whole lot of skill to get a lot of what's the word I'm looking for here?
Like early success.
Kind of. They dominate at those ranks, and just
because people just aren't coordinated enough.
Coordinated enough to take care of them. Exactly. But then at higher ranks, they're very easily countered, and you don't see a whole lot of play on them.
And like in pro play, they're like just not played at all, almost.
Exactly. Which I mean, I think is kind of speaks to how different the levels of play
are. It's like same thing in League of Legends, how like you could have a character in pro play be a high priority pick or like a must ban or like something super dangerous, but then in normal solo queue it's like the worst character in the game maybe.
Yeah, like you just can't balance a team around that because you don't have the teamwork for it. And I mean, talking about esports players, they have such short careers.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mark Cuban, who's what is he, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA? He's gone on record saying that he thinks that esports is not worth investing in, and he doesn't believe in esports or its success because he thinks that the players' careers are too short.
It's too like random, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably because you don't know if you're going to succeed or like last that long anyway.
Exactly, because I mean, the average esports player becomes pro between 16 to 18.
16, 18, and then they
retire like 22, 24, something like that.
Yeah. So like the average career, like 4 to 5 years, like you said.
And I mean, compare that to other professional sports, that's really short.
Yeah. And I think there's like a lot of reasons for that, right? Because there's like part of it is just not being able to, or in general not being able to keep up anymore by the time you hit like 25. Because I think in a Washington Post interview, a doctor said that like by age 25 your like reaction speed and like hand-eye coordination start deteriorating. And even if it's just a little bit in esports, it's like things are based on like milliseconds.
Yeah, things like hand-eye coordination and reaction time are such an integral part of esports.
Yeah, like it's literally down to the millisecond. It could be like the difference between you winning a game or losing.
I think for sure that's a huge factor. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is how much stress and strain these players are putting their bodies through, practicing for 10 or 12 hours a day, honing their skill because it's such a cutthroat environment. Like,
yeah, really.
The game changes.
If you're like getting older and older and no longer performing your best, because I think the peak, or like the most players get to their like peak performance years at like around early 20s. And like if you're past that and you're no longer performing that well, and there's like an upcoming young player that's playing really well, you're gonna get dropped.
Yeah,
you're gonna get
dropped really quick.
Yeah, you're just gonna get swapped.
Yeah, but they're forced to put so much time into it because the games are changing so much. I mean,
also that, yeah.
I mean, competitive games put out a new patch, like new updates every month or so.
Yeah, depending on the game, there's like new patch, new maps, new characters.
Yeah,
just like
and constantly changing the game around you.
Yeah, constantly everything changes, and
you can
like
never
your strategy
get too comfortable.
has to change and everything.
And I think that makes things really competitive, and there's not as much of an industry around esports because they don't have the same assurances that other sports players have in, I don't know, a dedicated salary. I think Overwatch League
was like the first
the first one to make a major industry around it and have assurances and a salary and a cut of the winnings. And
so players on the teams were like, I guess, in a much more secure position for our Overwatch League.
For sure. And that's when you really saw players starting to be in the league for longer.
Yeah.
I mean, think of like dynasties. Like I know the San Francisco Shock in the Overwatch League had like a dynasty. They won
like
several, and that's because they kept their same team roster for several years. I think that let the teammates really learn how to play with each other better.
Yeah, and also just the fact that Overwatch Week was like, I think like the first major global esports week that had like permanent city-based teams, and it made it like really similar to traditional sports. Yeah, that was like a really big milestone for like esports.
Because before that, it was just private companies, right? I think of like
basically, yeah,
Envy and FaZe Clan and other teams like that aren't really set down in like a specific city. Like I don't know if you're in a city,
because I mean like now it's the teams are still owned by like private organizations like that, but it's just the fact that it's like
they have a name attached.
Their name
to them.
basically, it's like the brand,
which I think is great for viewers, because if you don't really know who to cheer for, you don't have players that you like, because players turn over so quickly. It's hard to find players that you like and follow them.
It's also like just good for attracting like younger players to start like joining the league, because like a lot of older players, like we said earlier, they start retiring. Like I know something that we don't really talk about is just like also just the health issues that comes with esports. Sure. Because like Uzi, he's a 24-year-old Chinese League of Legends player, and he's like regarded as the best AD carry player ever, which is a position in the game. He had to retire in 2020 because like he had hand problems and shoulder problems, and like his doctor like said that he had like basically the arms of someone that was twice his age, because of things like years of staying up late practicing and just like not having a really good diet, and just like being under an extreme amount of stress for all these years. And he also like discovered he had type 2 diabetes because of it.
That's crazy to me, because I mean these players are putting themselves through so much to try to stay at the position they have. Yeah. And I mean, being told you're number one at something, that's a huge amount of stress.
Yeah, that's definitely also a part specifically for him. And like he got to the point where he could only play like 2 hours in a row, which I guess for like a normal person that's a long time. That's a long time. But for an esports player, that's
not enough.
You're not going to be able to do anything. Every other player every other team is practicing like 8 hours a day at least, and then like even like the games in a like an official match is going to be like more than 2 hours.
More than 2 hours, yeah, for sure. What else? I mean, you look at other players in other sports, like Tom Brady. He's like, how old is he? Is he 44?
Something like that.
And he only just announced his retirement.
Yeah, and he might come back anyway in a few years.
Exactly. Like, that's so crazy to me that you're able to be dominant in a sport for that long. But esports, I don't know, you'll only be dominant for maybe 2 years before the next player comes
There's
along.
like only rare instances of like the same player being dominant for a very, very long time.
I'm trying to think of the oldest esports players. I mean,
like it like adds to the fact that like the oldest players are considered like around 30. Just like speaks volumes.
There are not many players.
Like if you're 30 in esports, you're like considered old. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. Because I mean, a lot in other sports, 30-year-olds might be in their prime. Yeah. Which is, I don't know, it's a stark difference for sure.
I think the industry has definitely like started improving recently, especially because I think teams have like started hiring things like physical trainers and like sports scientists and psychologists, because they like realize the importance of like the mental health and physical health of all their players, because it affects their performance obviously. And I know that like I don't remember what game and what team, but there was like a team that won a major tournament in a game, and they were like one of the first teams to have a team psychologist, and like it really helped their players keep down all their stress levels and like just make them perform well.
I mean, sports psychology is a huge thing. I mean, other sports leagues have implemented sports psychologists with great success, and I think that esports was a little late to be doing that, you know?
I think esports was a little late for like a lot of things.
And I think that has to do a lot with the mainstream media and how they kind of paint esports is not a real industry and kind of a niche, unprofessional type of thing, because it's not a real job, and it wasn't for a really long time. Only until recently has it become a real job.
More stable, definitely,
But I think one thing that's really helped media get better at painting that picture is increasing prize pools.
Well, it's gotten the esports more attention.
Yeah, it's harder to.
It sparked conversation.
Yeah, I think for sure. Which I mean, conversation
which is good.
What it needs,
Yeah.
because
I think like when Booga won the Fortnite World Cup at 16, and he like got $3 million for it, that like exploded all over like the media. Like all news outlets started like talking about it, like debating over it.
How could this kid have won $3 million?
Yeah, they
playing
basically
a video game?
A lot of them just like made fun of him, like or like not him specifically, but like made fun of the fact that someone could play games and win $3 million. I think that's like a really common, I guess, like mindset that like, oh, he won a game tournament. Well, like that was easy. Like it's just winning a game. It's like the same thing as beating your friend or something. But like it's not at all. Especially if it's like a really popular game like Fortnite. Like there's like probably millions and millions and millions of players, and he got number one in that tournament. That's an achievement, and people sometimes don't like appreciate that.
And I mean, what the here, wait, I have the numbers here.
Pull up the numbers.
Yeah, pulling up the numbers. It was the Super Bowl. Where was that? I can't find it. Whatever. The Super Bowl had like 94 million or something people, individual viewers.
Oh, viewership, yeah. Viewership for esports has increased like increasing every year. I think it was in 2018, the Super Bowl had like a peak of around 94 million viewers or something.
98, yeah.
98 million. And
in 2019, the League of Legends
World Finals had over 100
million. That's crazy.
So like, yeah, esports is overtaking some of the, or like the big events in esports are sometimes overtaking the big events in like traditional sports. And I think like in 2014, even the World Finals for League of Legends had like more viewership than the NBA Finals or something. I might be wrong about that, but it was something like that.
Which, I mean, that's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah. And I think in general, it's gotten a lot easier for young players to kind of like get noticed and get into the esports scene.
Yeah, I mean, because there's actual game sponsored like minor leagues now.
Yeah,
because there's Overwatch Contenders.
Overwatch League has Overwatch Contenders, which is just like another international esports league, but it's like much lower stakes.
Yeah,
and basically it's like it can act as like a development league for aspiring Overwatch League professionals, and I think that's like a really important and valuable thing.
Yeah, and I think that like a lot of those teams in Overwatch Contenders have really quick turnover.
Yeah.
And it's just a way for
teams that do well, I guess.
Yeah, it's like
even teams that don't do well, if you have like a specific player that is standing out a lot, then he's gonna get noticed. And then like some Overwatch League teams have like a Overwatch Contender secondary team, right?
Yeah, there's Philadelphia Fusion is a Overwatch League team.
Yeah.
But they have a contenders team called the Fusion Academy.
Fusion University, something like that.
Oh yeah, Fusion University. Yeah.
And yeah, and I think it's just a good way for the, I guess, like Overwatch League teams to also basically like be more open to accepting players that they don't know about and like don't know if they have like the like right amount of potential that they want, and they can like test out how they do before they move them into like the bigger leagues. And like League of Legends is like the same thing, because for North American League of Legends there's NALCS, which is like the main League of Legends tournament, and then there's LCS Academy, which is like basically the same thing as Overwatch Contenders but not international. It's just North America. And basically like every team in NALCS also has like a team in LCS Academy, so it's just like a way for them to develop NA talent, basically. Yeah, and hopefully make NA players like better.
Yeah, and I know in Overwatch Contenders, it was like a couple years ago, I think the Vancouver Titans and it was a something Spark. Do you know those teams?
Oh, I don't remember the name. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but both of those teams, all the players on them used to be contenders teams,
okay, yeah.
And then they got picked up as like whole teams for the Overwatch League,
which
I thought was really cool. Like,
yeah,
it was like
stuff like that.
It was like the grand prize for the contenders was the top two teams get put into the Overwatch League.
I see. Yeah, like something like that is just really good for the industry, I think.
Yeah, and I also think, I mean, a lot of pro coaches and scouters have gone on record saying, like, probably the best way to get noticed and picked up by teams is streaming. And if you can get a big following, and you're doing well and ranked and getting a lot of attention, then people are going to come and pick you up.
Yeah, because like I can think of a few examples of that because like for League of Legends, there's Faker, who is like the most dominant League of Legends player of all time, and he's like the most popular League of Legends player of all time probably. He was pulled out of solo queue by his team SKT Telecom, and basically they like offered or they wanted to just build a professional team all around him because like he was that dominant in solo queue, and like they noticed him, and yeah, they literally wanted to form a team where he was like the center. But then there's also like Tens.
Yeah, Tens who, I mean, he was streaming CS:GO, right?
Yeah, he's like right now he's like a popular and pretty dominant Valorant player. But before that, he was just streaming CS:GO, and he started like climbing the ranks, and he had a lot of like viral clips of him playing, and he ended up getting noticed by Cloud9, and they signed him for CS:GO.
I mean, very recently it's Timmy, and he used to be a Shroud fanboy. Shroud is like a
Shroud
CS:GO player,
live streamer now.
But he used to be like a huge Shroud fan, and Shroud inspired him to start streaming, and Timmy started getting a bigger and bigger following and becoming a huge Apex Legends community like content creator. And recently he's gone professional in Apex Legends because of his massive streaming career.
Yeah.
And streaming is so much bigger in South Korea and China.
Yeah, in general, yeah.
Because, I mean, that's just a bigger part of their culture there.
Yeah, gaming is just, I'd say it has like a much more, both of the extremes are a lot more extreme. Because I think in China and South Korea, the people that are against like esports are a lot more against it, and the people that are accepting of it are a lot more accepting of it.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, it's just way more mainstream.
Yeah, overall, definitely.
And esports is so much of a bigger industry there.
Esports is like legit. It's like seen as a legitimate career a lot more in Asia.
And professional South Korean players are like actual celebrities.
They're like seen
there.
as celebrities. Yeah,
yeah.
Like they're really popular ones, like the best ones.
And I mean, I think it goes to show that how good they are and how dominant they are in games.
Yeah, I think that has to do with why it's seen as like a more
I think it's kind of like
career. Because they have found like success for a very long time.
National pride almost.
Yeah.
Because like, I know in Overwatch League, what is it like? This top 6 players of all time are all from South Korea.
Yeah, and then like right now, like 57% of the players in the league are all South Korean or something. That's so like that's pretty crazy. And then like I know for League of Legends, for the World Championship, the World Championships from like 2013 to 2017, it was all South Korea that won, and I think like China won 2 years in a row after that, and then South Korea won again, and then China won again.
That's so
for
crazy.
like 11 years,
it was only
or
South
like 9 years, it was all like South Korea and China that won.
Yeah, I think that goes to show how different the culture is over there, and because I mean, gaming is not seen as a super respectable job here.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, it's not as mainstream, and streamers aren't as popular.
Yeah, I think another reason for it is probably because in South Korea and China, like gaming cafes is like a really big like industry.
Yeah.
Like it's just like something really common for high school students like to go to and have fun at, and they're like players or like students just like play a lot of games in general. So I think that really helps with them like developing their talent if they have talent for a game, and like discovering that they have talent in the first place anyway.
For sure. You want to move into talking about Overwatch 1 a little bit?
Yeah, so we brought up Overwatch 1 earlier, we brought up Overwatch earlier, and recently Overwatch 2, the beta for it came out.
The beta came out.
And we both played Overwatch 1 for a very, very long time.
I'd rather not disclose the number of hours I have in that game.
It's not like all that, but let's just say that it's been how many years since we like played?
It's been 6 years.
Around that, probably, yeah.
5.5.
Probably almost 6 years of Overwatch 1. And how have you felt about the game?
It's hard because I love that game so much. I love it to pieces. Yeah. But there are some parts of it that I think
for both of us, Overwatch 1, like as much as we hate it, we love it a lot more. It's just like a comfort game now.
It is a comfort game. It's a guilty pleasure. Yeah. Kind of. Because, I don't know, as slow as the gameplay can be, and as bad as the community is, and as many horrible experiences as I've had, I don't know, the core gameplay and the idea behind
it's just still fun.
It's so good and it's so unique, and I think it was really one of the first games to make something like that work. Yeah, they took massive inspiration from Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, so Overwatch as the game.
Oh yeah, let's explain.
Yeah, so the game is 6 versus 6 players, and there's like 3 roles. There's DPS, which is like the main damage carry, like the characters that do damage, and then there's healers or supports that like just
keep the team alive
with like supportive abilities and everything. And there's tanks that are like the front line, and like they lead the push.
Soak
basically.
up most of the damage.
Yeah, they soak up the damage.
And I mean, each role and really each character.
Yeah, each character plays differently. Really differently.
Really own unique thing, and there's not a whole lot of overlap between characters.
Yeah, because like every character has like unique abilities and like just like attacks, I guess.
And I think something that Overwatch really did to try to make it its own. I know League of Legends is a champ-based game, where it's different characters and stuff. Yeah. But League of Legends was not afraid to have 2 characters have very similar or
styles.
If not the same, the same
like,
ability.
It's been a joke for a very long time that all the new characters coming out are like anime themed or like cartoonish or like just
but
like,
I mean, that was one thing that Overwatch was really afraid to do for a really long time, was to like have any repeat ability of a character.
Yeah, and like repeat just like styles in general. And also just I think like the character cast for Overwatch is like
really unique,
super unique and diverse, as much as some people might say otherwise sometimes for some reason. Because like they have like classic soldier.
Yeah, it was like the normal army guy.
And they have like the classic like Western cowboy. But then they have like a talking monkey.
Yeah, talking monkey and demolitionist Australian.
Yeah, they have like a hamster in a hamster ball. That's a hamster ball. Like,
walking. Or not walking, but Omnic Monk.
Yeah, Omnic Monk. Like the character cast is crazy.
Yeah, and every character for such a long time was so unique, and
they all had like their own charm.
Yeah, they all had their own charm and their own place in the game. Yeah. But in Overwatch 2, which is the new kind of bigger game, they're starting to branch out more, and they said, I think they went on record saying that they're going to be more willing to make characters that fill into the same role and have similar feel, because they want more players to be able to play different characters. Yeah.
And I think Overwatch 2 Beta, it was announced like almost 3 years ago, probably.
3 years ago,
and like
2.5 years,
it came out a few days ago, and
the amount of progress they've made is underwhelming, to say the least.
So there's one new character, which is, granted, it's a really fun character.
It's fun, but it
like
fits
one character.
Yeah, and it's not terribly unique either. I mean, Sojourn, the new character, plays a whole lot like Soldier 76.
Kinda, yeah, in ways. And then they added 4 new maps.
4, yeah.
And then they turned
game mode.
1 new game mode. They turned nighttime maps to daytime and daytime maps to nighttime. And that's like it, along with some
new
character
gun
changes.
Sounds.
Yeah, there's like new sounds, and some characters got like reworked and like changed slightly. Which all of this, if this came out like a few months after they announced like Overwatch 2 coming out, would have been like really good. It would have been like
shown a whole lot of promise.
shown a whole lot of promise. But like after 3 years, this is all that's come out.
Yeah,
and then also just like the role queue is still there, which they like.
That was controversial.
Yeah, so before role queue basically is every team is locked at 2-2-2 comp, which 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 support.
Healer, yeah.
And basically you queue for a specific role, and you can't, once you get in the game, you can't change your role. You can't swap. And before role queue was introduced, it was just, well, I guess now it's like
you could see a whole lot of more queue. A more diverse team comp.
It was just you can play any character you want, and there could be any amount of any role, and you could like switch between roles, and it was a lot more free, I'd say.
I think that's where we loop back over to the balancing the game between your casual and your competitive audience, because in professional play, I think it was a contenders team called Goats. Yeah. Goats ran a different team comp than what was traditional. Yeah. And they had 3 tanks and 3 supports. Yeah. And they ended up winning the whole tournament.
Yeah.
And then from then on, a lot of other professional teams started to realize that running 3 tanks and 3 supports was
just like dominant. It was just
it
like
was
a really dominant,
really strong.
And everyone started copying them. Like especially in the Overwatch League, every single game was just goats versus goats.
It was a style of play that needed a lot of teamwork.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you had even a little bit of teamwork,
it was a super really boring team comp.
It was slow and sluggish.
It was slow, and all the fights were just like usually no one died, and it was just brawly. And then it was just whichever team used their ultimate abilities first, basically won the fight. And that was like every single game on repeat, nonstop. And I know one of the most viral clips for Overwatch League was when
Houston Outlaws, I think,
yeah, on attack they finally picked a team comp that wasn't goats. And then after they left their spawn, they saw that the defensive team picked goats. They instantly like went back to their spawn and swapped to goats.
Just because you can't
it's
win
just
that
like
fight.
Yeah, because it was like if your team didn't play goats and the other team did, you probably just insta lost. Like it was so dominant, and like Blizzard couldn't really do anything to any like small patches and changes to like just make the team comp not dominant.
Because the way the game was, the tank role was just, you couldn't change it too much without it not being a tank anymore.
Yeah, and then that's why they like introduced role queue.
Yeah, so they introduced role queue into the Overwatch League first, where they forced all teams to play 2 tanks, 2 damage, and 2 support.
Yeah,
and I thought that worked pretty well when it was just in the league, just because it made the games more interesting to watch.
Yeah, because that was like one of the reasons they introduced it in the first place. Because I think that a lot of people feared that like GOATS was killing the Overwatch League basically, because like viewership was dropping a lot because of the fact that like every match was so slow and boring and not exciting to watch.
And I mean, with the release of the hero Brigitte,
something like that, yeah, one of those.
Yeah, I mean, she was like a tanky support, and tanks were so dominant already that the fact that you could have a tank who could also heal, that was really game changing for GOATS.
That was like the last straw for it before it got like basically just fundamentally like removed from the game. Like you could not play it at all anymore because role queue.
But then they released role queue into normal and casual play.
Yeah, and
they forced the entire player base to start doing that, and they released a whole lot of backlash for that because I didn't like that.
I don't like it
because
like
our rank, we're pretty average players, I say. I don't know. I think that at our rank, it doesn't make that much of a difference.
Yeah, like GOATS, I'd say was more dominant and prominent at like
higher levels,
top ranks. Because like even in like
top 10% of players.
Yeah, like even in like Diamond when I played, like I didn't really see GOATS. I'm pretty, unless I'm remembering wrong. Like I didn't see GOATS that often, and then even when I did see it, I'm pretty sure it usually just lost because like they just weren't coordinated enough to play it. Because as easy as it is to play, usually it's just like a bunch of randoms coming together and playing it.
It goes back to the solo queue thing you were saying earlier, where it's just they're playing different games.
It's just a different game, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, at our ranks, it was like more. I don't know. You could play GOATS and succeed, or you could just play
whatever.
Normal.
Because at our rank goes anything can succeed.
Yeah,
basically.
anyone who's more skilled is gonna win.
Yeah, it was
more of a matchup base than.
Still, I think in Overwatch 2 Beta, like role queue is back, but it's whatever. And then they
got rid of a tank.
Got rid of a tank for both teams. It's 5v5 now instead of 6v6, and they buffed up like the remaining tank a lot. Yeah, so they made changes to everyone.
Instead of there being like 2 kind of beefy tanks, there's now just one super tank.
Yeah.
Who's like a mini boss battle. Yeah.
But I think like the reason they said that they did that was the lead director, I think, said that for Overwatch 1, since it was like 6v6, sometimes it got really like unorganized and like messy to keep track of what 11 other players are doing. So they decided to like take away 2 players and hopefully make things more like clear.
And also, I mean, in Overwatch 1, tanks were not fun to play.
Yeah,
very much.
And tank was like a dead role basically.
They didn't do a whole lot of damage. They were more just there to. It was a high stress role because you have a whole lot of people like depending on you, and the tank is such an important role.
It's like really weird because it's like you are I think in my opinion you probably are like the most influential role but it feels like you don't do anything.
It's not rewarding.
Because like it is like if your tanks are not playing well and they're not like doing something right, like your team gets destroyed, like and just gets steamrolled because you don't have a front line. But at the same time, it's just like it feels like you can't do anything basically if you're playing tank.
You're highly influential in the game, but it feels like you're useless.
Yeah, and it feels like you're helpless.
But now, when you're playing tank, you feel really strong.
You feel a little run in.
A little too strong, in my opinion.
Like you saw my tank games. Yeah. I just literally run in and I'm finding success.
Like even if you are just completely destroying the enemy, like you shouldn't have that much of an impact.
Yeah, you shouldn't be able to have that much of an impact, I think.
But yeah,
they're making changes.
It's way more about playing around your one tank than it is just having your two tanks soak up all the damage.
They've like made a lot of other changes too, just in general for the game. Not enough for like 3 years worth. I mean, like, there are changes.
All the characters in the game, which are still there, I mean, they were all designed with 6 versus 6.
Yeah, everyone was designed for 6v6, and all of a sudden now it's 5v5.
Now that it's 5v5,
and everything's getting like messy because you got some characters like Soldier 76, where in 6v6 in Overwatch 1 he was like average, not that good.
Yeah, 2 tanks were blocking a whole lot.
Going against 2 tanks and then going against like usually 2 tanks that have shields and barriers, he couldn't do much. But now in Overwatch 2, there's a lot less barriers.
There's only one tank, and fewer of the tanks have barriers.
Yeah, so like, and Soldier now is like one of the most dominant DPS characters. But then on the other side, you have like Symmetra, where in Overwatch 1 she was
successful because of tanks.
Yeah, because she can like charge up her damage
off of
like a barrier basically. But then in Overwatch 2, now there's like no barriers and there's like not a high health target. It's like really hard for her to charge damage. Yeah.
I think that's for sure a big difference. I think characters like Sojourn or Orisa and Doomfist,
or like the reworked characters.
Yeah, all the characters that were completely done up with Overwatch 2 in mind.
They feel nice.
Good. They feel good to play. And they feel like they fit into the game. But older characters that haven't seen changes, I think, are still trying to find their place in Overwatch 2.
Yeah, everything feels like a little bit rough, kind of like nothing feels like a smooth experience yet.
I agree,
and it makes sense because it's like the first beta that came out.
It is the first, but I don't know. I'm hoping they're sitting on a lot of content.
Yeah, it's a lot more right now. Just hoping that like there's a lot more going on for the PvE side.
I'm hoping that behind the scenes they're working on a lot of stuff and they don't want to release everything at once because
it's just.
Right like, now,
the main selling point of Overwatch 2 was the PvE. The PvP was just like an extra, honestly. And so, like, if this is all the PvP is, it's honestly whatever. As long as the PvE is like groundbreaking, or like super fun. Because
I mean, during the events in Overwatch 1, like the limited time events, they have PvE.
Oh, those PvEs were.
Oh, you don't like those?
No, I don't like those. I thought they were fun like the first few times.
Those.
I think they're fun the first like 1 or 2 times.
I'm hoping it's like that.
Like honestly, they were really fun. It's just the fact that they only released like 3 or 4 of them for like the past 6 years.
Yeah.
So they got really repetitive.
You played the same thing over and
that's
over.
Probably why I don't like them as much anymore. But I think when they were released, they were really cool. Yeah,
I'm hoping that if they can capture that feeling again,
and if it's like expanded upon, then
that would be fun.
So as long as Overwatch 2 shows reason why it's worth another $60 and it's not just a balance update. For Overwatch 1.
That's the biggest thing. It just feels like a big balance update.
Right now, yeah.
And considering they abandoned Overwatch 1 for, what,
2 years?
2 years?
2 years. No changes to Overwatch 1
No changes at all. I don't know. Getting one character in a few new maps doesn't feel great. Yeah. But, yeah.
Is that everything?
I think that's everything.
That's everything.
All right. I think that's probably it for episode 1, guys.
Yep.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Where we're going to have a special guest, hopefully.
Special guest. All right. Signing off.